¿Qué ondas, primos?
Primas.
Y primes.
Welcome to my
Primos.
Primos.
Primo
Podcast. Welcome to the My Primos podcast.
My name is Freddie.
My name is Kevin Garcia.
My name is Elia Maria Madrid.
My name is Jonavina.
This is Chikume, whenever I can make it.
My Primos podcast discusses all things fandom and pop culture,
From comic books,
Movies?
To whatever obsession we have this week.
but with a Latine
my Latine.
perspective. Remember, we're all primos,
We're all primes.
Primas.
Primos.
no matter what part of the world we're from. ¿Qué ondas, primos, primas, and primes, and welcome back to my Primos podcast. My name is Freddie, and with me tonight we have Primo Kevin Garcia.com. Say what's up, Kevin.
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, there it is, everybody. The phrase that pays. And
Does it?
coming back to it, I mean,
Hopefully.
you get paid with like exposure.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Exposure.
Well,
Exposure.
you'd be surprised. I've actually got my bank to accept exposure now.
Hey, you know what?
The exchange rate is not good though.
And
you're
you'll get
overdrafted.
something.
Oh, no.
I am actually.
You're
Just
owed.
by
I owe you
depositing, I
exposure.
became overdraft.
You know what? I'm gonna just overexpose you moving forward. More than
much of that.
you know. Well, you've had a lot of that happen recently, which maybe we'll get into. And coming back to the show, Elia Maria Madrid. Say
Hey.
what's up, Elia.
What's up, Elia?
Hey, Spice Illustrations, everybody. She's back.
I'm back.
Elia, you're back. Every time you're gone for like a week, I feel like it's been a month. Feels like too long. It really does.
Hey,
It does.
I'm glad I can
You're
make
back.
it when I can. I'm sorry, y'all. My body's just like, nah.
I mean,
Well,
we're all
we'll do
getting
it.
old. Once you guys get to be
I
my age,
know. Yeah.
Dude, you swear. You know what? I've been thinking about this. You make it sound like you're like fucking 10, 20 years older than us. Like,
He's
I'm
85.
fucking like I'm like 3 years younger than you. You swear, like you know, like
dude, I'm 80.
Yeah.
all right, sure.
You look
And-
good for 80.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, born in
you-
80, but I mean, like, you know.
You look shitty for 40.
Right?
That voice primos that we have today is Adrian Villegas. Say what's up, Adrian, to the primos.
What's up, primos?
Well, primos, we have met
Yeah.
Adrian. I met Adrian at BIPOC this past year. We had a cool little chat, and he's also a participant in our pop quiz primos, which you guys, are big fans of. Which stay tuned, there'll be more sessions of that coming up. We had a good conversation, and I'm glad that Adrian got to join the show. But Kevin, you and Adrian were already kind of familiar with each other, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen his shows a while back, especially Star Wars. I was going to be part of one, and then there was a pandemic or something that happened. I don't remember
Oh.
exactly what it was.
You were gonna be
That
part of a
whole
show, Kevin?
Period's kind of hazy.
Really, really interesting. Kevin Garcia. I'd love to see you in an obra. I would love to see you in something on stage
Right?
like that, man.
I've
That'd
been
be
thinking
fun.
about participating in a podcast at some point.
Hey, you could do
I don't
that.
know.
I know a guy.
That's played out.
There's a lot of
True.
podcasts out there, but I know a guy.
Yeah.
Trust me. You throw a rock into a convention crowd, you're gonna hit like 3 podcasters. That's just the reality, you know.
This is true.
Primos, this is the podcast that you're listening and watching today. We appreciate everyone that's out there supporting us. Remember, you can do so by following us at My Primos Podcast and visiting myprimospodcast.com. All right, Adrian, for those that don't know what you have done in the past or currently do or will be doing, and of course, I know we're going to dive in a little deeper as we talk, but introduce yourself to the primos here so they can know who you are and what you do.
I am Adrian Villegas or Adrian Villegas, and I am one of the founders and the current artistic director of the Latino Comedy Project. It's a sketch comedy group that was founded here in Austin, Texas in 1998. And has,
back in the 1900s.
yeah. From the 1900s, the 20th century. And, had a long journey, lots of work produced in that time. Also have a lot of solo work that I've produced. I'm a writer, director, performer, producer, merch table operator.
Tap dancer.
As needed.
I mean,
But yeah, we celebrated our 25th anniversary a while back and got the group together and was looked back on our body of work and a couple of shows last year we did that. And so, yeah, that's where things are at. Also working toward different new projects coming into the future, which we can talk about. But our mission was to create work that is by us. We all wrote all of our own material for our own people and our audience first, but that was also inclusive of all other audiences, without being, exclusionary of any other people's enjoyment of what we do.
I brought this up before, but like when pre-pandemic, I was talking to some friends of mine who are white, and they were like, "Oh, well, we want to go, but we don't want to like encroach on your space." And it's like, we want your money.
Yeah,
Please buy tickets.
Leave your money then. Leave your money at the door.
Yeah, if you feel that bad about it, just buy a bunch of tickets. We'll be all right. We have more legroom.
Well, that was always a big priority from the beginning of the group, which was like, we're going to be, because I always took my cues from people like Woody Allen and Richard Pryor, and they were very specific culturally in what they did, but their work allowed other people, because there was a universality about it all that allowed everybody else in on it,
And I recommend against setting yourself on fire.
Yes, I've avoided that so far. Or even Monty Python. Monty Python was totally British, and yet there was something about it that allowed anybody to enjoy it, even if there were certain references you didn't get. So we kind of approached it that way and stuck to that. And there's a lot of power in being very specific and being very outside of the mainstream and using that.
Can
as
I
your
ask?
cultural.
You say that, and it comes to mind. You mentioned Monty Python, and you mentioned like Star Wars, which is kind of the big thing that kind of blew up. And I saw clips of that, and it was awesome. I'm not a fan of Star Wars, but I know Latinos, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is the fact that the concepts you're coming up with are inclusive of the culture, right? The community. Even though I'm not necessarily a Star Wars fan, or if you don't need to be a Star Wars fanatic to enjoy the show, you're gonna get the jokes, you're gonna get something out of it because it's Latinos.
Yeah, and that was part of the whole reason behind that show too. I'm a big Star Wars fan from the very beginning, like from I was one of those kids. I was like 5 years old when the movie came out. So we were that generation of kids that was like using broomsticks out on the sidewalk, pretending they didn't even make lightsaber toys back then.
No.
Yeah.
I was using palm fronds, or rather the I don't know what they're called, but when they're like seeding and stuff, and they have this big piece that would fall off the palm tree. That's what I was using.
Well, do you remember what the actual lightsaber toy was? Their first one? It was a flashlight with an inflatable thing.
It was like that big.
I swear, I thought Kevin was gonna get up and go get one. Like, I swear, you got
give me
it.
a second.
Like, you made the motion. Like, yeah, I don't know. He's gonna go get it.
It was literally a flashlight with like an inflatable tube on it. But so I was there at the beginning, and I was like totally inspired as a kid to start drawing, and it kind of opened the door to all of my creativity that I followed through on the rest of my life. But I had seen some kind of mashup improv shows that I don't want to be specific, but I saw one in particular that had a really great idea of like a Latino thing and a sci-fi thing, and
okay.
And you could tell that they hadn't done any research on either side of it.
Yeah.
And I thought this could have been so good if they had just dug in, because that's where all the jokes come from. The more research you do, the more, and that goes for writing of any kind, the more research you do, the better it becomes. So I went home and started thinking, now, if I were to do something like that, what would it be? And I thought, okay, it would have to be Star Wars, because I know that inside and out. At one point, I was the guy who could tell you. Yeah, at one point, I was the guy that could tell you, because I used to collect a lot, I could tell you what the name of that particular alien that was on screen in the cantina for 3 seconds, what that character's name was.
You're like, that head popped up, and you're like, that guy, I know that guy.
Yeah, Moma Nadan or whatever, like, okay, who would know that? But then I also thought, I'm also like a big geek about Chicano culture and history and movies. And so my idea was, what would, the premise could be, what if George Lucas had been Jorge Lucas? And he was like this militant Chicano, Chicano power filmmaker, and he was trying to get his message out through this idea of, this sci-fi epic. And that's where, and it kind of just blew up from there. And when I kept telling people about the idea, so the idea would be that Jorge Lucas would bring all of his cultural references into it, right?
And that's why, by the way, that's why I like it, because let's say you only know Star Wars, you don't know nothing about Latino culture or Mexican American culture. You're going to get the jokes, you're going to have fun with it. But let's say you know nothing about Star Wars, but you grew up knowing Mexican American culture or Latino culture. You see a giant chakma flying through space, you know that's going to be a threat. So you get the idea. Like, it works really well.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, and also like things like the resistencia instead of the rebellion.
Yeah,
But it was made up of like adalitas, you know.
as it should be.
And
Yeah.
I actually
That's cool.
heard a woman. There was kind of an Easter egg in the show where there was a woman who was pulled into this whole thing because, and this was all in 2019. We did the show the first time. That at the beginning of the show, she separated from her child, so it's kind of like a family separation, immigration thing. And eventually, she's reunited with her child at the end. That's part of the happy ending of the show. But when she is asked by the princesa, who's the actual leader of the Resistencia, what her name is after they've been through all these adventures and like and battle, she asked that woman what's her name, and she goes Adalita. Toward the end of the show, and there was one show I remember at the ground floor where she said that line, and I heard a couple of young Latinas they were like so excited because they got it, you know. Like
Yeah, they got it.
It was kind of like one of those Easter eggs they do in the comic book movies where it's like,
Yeah.
I like that name, Robin. You know,
Yeah.
The comparison I would make is the
Yeah,
Blue Beetle.
hey.
You guys see the Blue Beetle movie?
Not yet.
yeah.
Yeah, I know we saw it here. But the thing
Yeah.
is that like when the trenzas go down from the grandmother, the audience
Right.
went nuts. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, if you
Right.
know what that means, it means so much.
Right. So I started telling people before I decided to do the show and actually like commit to it because I knew it was a big idea and we'd have to do like Kickstarter or whatever to make that show possible because we didn't have the resources. It was going to require costumes and
Yeah.
special effects, and I would tell people about the idea. It's Star Wars and Jorge Lucas, and I would just tell them the idea, and it wasn't even full. I'll have like probably 4 pages of notes initially from my original, inspiration, and people get so excited. They're like, "You got to do it! You got to do it! You got to do it!" And Nick Walker, my partner in the LCP, he actually had the real idea that forced me to have to do it because I told him the idea months later, and he said, "Yeah, and if you were to do it like as the Cinco de Mayo and May the 4th be with you week."
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, shit.
Like, bro.
I got to now.
Yeah.
Because half of it is marketing, right?
Yeah.
So that idea is so good that it's like you already know that you're going to have a hook for the media. You're going to have the calendar doing your marketing for you already. And also, I was correct about the media thing because they always love having some simple thing that they can regurgitate. So I said, so I thought I could hear it. Like you just spoon feed something real easy for them. Like celebrate Cinco de Mayo, or no, celebrate May the 4th and Cinco de Mayo, And of course, literally that's what, when we would get covered, that's literally what they would say.
Heck yeah.
So I had to do it. It was a lot of work. We had to do a long, strenuous Kickstarter that almost failed. Luckily did not.
Hey.
Because we didn't know what we were doing.
Those things are scary.
They
When
are.
you get
It
into
was
the last like couple days of it, you're like, oh no.
Well, we set the bar too high. We hit it, but if I were to do it over again, I would have started it lower. And then
Isn't that thing what happens with Latinos though? Like we're always afraid to hit that dollar because we're like, oh shit, like we gotta be realistic here. Like no, like we can aim pretty high. I mean,
Right?
I get it. If you have to, I mean, like why can't we? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. We always have to be like, oh well, fuck it. Hold on, no. Don't ask for $5,000, man. You gotta ask for like 2 because you're barely gonna get in.
For $4,999, then you're okay.
Nah, man, it's the truth with anything, right? Like I've always grew up the way like, hey, no, like no, don't ask for that. You gotta work for it. You gotta earn it. You gotta make sure you figure it out on your own. Échale ganas, make it work with what you got. Hey, we only have this many materials. Fuck it, figure it out. Like, and I feel like theater because I'm not from that world, right? No, Elia is a bit, and you are Adrian, like that craftiness. I mean, you have to think on your feet, not only up here, but literally just think on your move, grab, build, right? I mean, isn't that how it goes, Elia?
Yeah, it's a resourceful art. It's very much you make something out of nothing. So.
Man,
Well,
it's
just
trip,
make sure when you
Latinos
do a
belong in the theater.
fundraiser that it ends on either the 1st or the 15th.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm
For
joking.
sure.
No,
No,
serious,
you're not.
seriously.
But
You're not.
but what you're saying is actually is totally true. And actually, I'm gonna get off the subject just a little bit here, but about what you're saying, we did. I just did. Brought back my original one man show, Six Mexicans Named Gonzalez, and we did it. We did like 5 shows, and it was kind of an experiment to do like this outdoor performances. You know, cap the attendance at 50 people. And do a theatrical performance in that kind of setting, because it was a way to kind of get around how hard it is to get spaces in town, you know. So we had a space that was kind of seemed ready made for it, a backyard space, and they went great. But that was kind of that thing of like, well, let's get the hacking machete over here, and let's fucking go around whatever the issue is, you know.
Let me
So
ask you
you're
a
right.
question. When you're doing a show like Star Wars, you know, we talked already about like you could get a mixed audience that shows up there for that, obviously. But when you have a show called Five Mexicans, what's your audience like? Is it mostly like Latinos in the community, or is it also like you're bringing other people in?
Well, that show, because it was experimental, like the setting was experimental, and also I reconfigured the show from its original version, which was a very straightforward, like video monologue, and it was theatrical. This thing, because it was in a more casual kind of setting, I'll get to your answer in a second, but I made it kind of half memoir, half material.
Okay.
So I talked about stories behind the monologues, like who inspired the characters, personal stuff. Like one of the characters was my grandpa. So I talked about like with the hindsight. So I kind of shifted that show, but part of that, Kevin, was that I limited where I marketed that show. Like I kind of just limited it to our mailing list, because I knew those were the people that were hardcore and would want to come out with something. Under other circumstances, it would be a wide net, but people showed up to Star Wars. So many different people showed up to that show. I mean, like different kinds of people, because it was almost like the Star Wars aspect of it was a huge in for a lot of people, and then they show up, and then the best thing about that show, from my like kind of creative calculating perspective, is that everybody came to that show expecting and when you look at the trailer that y'all will probably all include in this podcast, they kind of come expecting like a brown Spaceballs, you know?
Yeah.
But then there was stuff in the show that was tear jerking, that was real and painful, you know, because that was really the whole point of that show that made it worth it to do it. Because I said, if it's just going to be a parody, I've done so much parody over the years with the Latino Comedy Project. That's kind of a dead end at some point. I said, well, what will make it worth it for me to do this, to write it? And I said, only if it encompasses what's happening right now in the country, and only if it comments on that, and only if it has a statement. And ultimately that show's statement was one about not giving up the fight.
And the thing is, that came out during the height of the first Trump administration's, you know, family separations.
Yep.
And now, well, everything.
Yeah.
No, well, I think that, you know, we've talked about Star Wars a little bit. I'm going to let the Primos take a peek at the clip. That way we can go ahead and have them see a little bit about it, just a little snippet, so that they can go ahead and understand what you're talking about. Because it's awesome. The idea's out there. We were talking about it. I'm like the theater of the mind. But, oh, shit, like, let's put something in front of the Primos here. So, Primos, check out a clip from Star Wars, and we'll be right back.
Release the droids.
Hi, I'm Adrian Villegas, Artistic Director of the Latino Comedy Project, and I want to tell you about an incredible event. The Latino Comedy Project's Star Wars. As we honor culture, fandom, and the timeless tale of a princesa, a migrant moisture farmer, and brave rebels in their battle against galactic tyranny. And it all began with those famous words. And who could forget that opening crawl? First, Who's the Latino Comedy Project? The Latino Comedy Project, or LCP, is an Austin-based Emmy-nominated sketch troupe known for our political and pop culture satire. With over 14 million views on YouTube, and our most recent critically acclaimed show, Gentrifuck, has enjoyed sold-out runs from Texas to California. The LCP's Star Wars will be a multimedia extravaganza of live comedy, original video parodies, and interactive fun brought to you by hardcore Latino fans who know the difference between a Rhodian, a Toydarian, and no chingin. Join us as we reimagine the world's most famous space opera as the bold vision of Jorge Lucas, militant Chicano studies major and online film school dropout. Through his legendary company, Lucasfilm, Jorge created a universe that changed the world. And will include all your favorite Star Wars moments, like Han Cholo's famous jump to hyperspace to escape the Empire's evil space chancla.
Chewie, hit the hydros!
Or the passing of a sacred weapon from one generation to the next.
Your Appa wanted you to have this.
What is it?
Your Appa's light vela. It's the weapon of the Jedi.
Hey, wait, you know what he's doing! And of course, a look behind the scenes at the creation of Star Wars' most beloved characters, like the galaxy's greatest Jedi Maestra, Yola. Well, I needed to create a mystical, all-knowing creature who concealed great power and wisdom in a small stature. And for Latinos, that can mean only one person. An abuela. This will be a full-blown fan event, complete with mashup costume contests, exclusive merchandise, and a rousing score by the London Mariachi Philharmonic. We've got a really good feeling about this. Or, in the words of La Princesa,
help me, Tío Juan Kenobi. Oh, hell no!
Primos.
I love that voice. I love the Jorge Lucas. I
do like that your pa wanted you to have this. Like that's kind of like it's like like I don't need to dress it up any more than that. Like that's enough for me, you know? Like it's funny and it's kind of like when you remember you hear an old song that you don't remember the title to, but you know it when you were a kid. You're like, I know that fucking song. Like that's that vibe that clip gave me. So Adrian, I dig it, man. It looks fun. It looks really, really fun.
Thanks, bro. We brought it back many times, and people showed up every time we did it, and we even took it to Dallas.
Yeah.
Which was really...
Maybe Elia will go if you ever bring it back up to Dallas, because Elia doesn't go only to Austin or Chicago, but never Fort Worth. Never Fort Worth.
Okay? If you bring it back, I just showed my partner for the first time she's watched every Star Wars movie, because up to this point she'd only seen Star Wars through cultural osmosis, and literally now she's like, Alexis. I get that joke now. So
no, funny enough, so the first time I heard about Star Wars was before I got into the Star Wars universe. Like, it was right before the pandemic. I think you took the trailer, Adrian, to one of the BIPOC shows, because you did a performance, and you also showed us a preview of it. And yeah. And I was like, dude, this is funny. Now I need to go watch Star Wars. And the pandemic happened, so I'm like, well, what else am I going to do in the house? I'm going to watch all Star Wars. And so, Star Wars was the gateway drug to getting me kind of into the
you Star hear that, Wars. Disney? This is the gateway drug.
Let me ask you then, Elia. So, so here's my thing. We had Bones on last time. Shout out to Bones from Calavera Cosplay.
Yeah.
Talking about being like kind of priced out or zoned out of like geekiness, right? The fun of be it like gaming, be it entertainment. Like it's getting more and more either expensive, you're getting priced out, or it's kind of like a bait and switch. They bring you in for something and then there's nothing else to keep you there, right? Yeah. So for me, like I'm about the satire. I know enough about Star Wars to kind of sit there and move into it, but like what about the show kept you there? Was it just Star Wars in general being this amazing thing for you, or was it more of the community?
Well, initially, because like before when I saw the clip, I didn't know much Star Wars. I mean, I got little bits because, you know, any geek who's in the geekdom. Yeah, cultural osmosis. Yeah. But because it was relatable, culturally, I was like, oh, so you're mixing the geek world with my cultura? That's fucking brilliant. And it's comedy. And like, I'm an improv. Like I've done improv like since forever. And so I was like, and that is in there. I gotta dive into this. And so, and then that just itself, it's like, okay, so we have a Star Wars. And then I hear Adrian posting about other projects that they're doing. It's like, oh, Latino Comedy Project, a group of people from my cultura doing something I love. It just kind of like it goes into more like, oh, so we can do this kind of stuff, not just exclusively for a geekdom, but to push a platform, to push an idea, to
a message
today's
that
events.
needs to be heard right now.
Yeah,
Adrian,
it's like it can be comedy, it can be drama, and he's doing it. And he's doing it.
I'm curious though. Like, yeah, it like I love the backing by the community, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious. Have you hit walls? Like places are like, nah, man, we don't do that shit here. Like that's just not gonna sell tickets. Like we don't want that here. Like I mean, I'm sure, but can you share a little bit about that, or has it been more positive than negative?
Well, it depends on what area you're talking about. Because like we've been around long enough where we actually had a period of time where we were able to go pitch a TV show, you know,
Hey.
Oh, cool.
in Hollywood, literally in like those rooms, you know. But at the time, which was probably 15, 16 years ago, we had gone viral, and all of a sudden all these people were paying attention to us. And it was in the early years of YouTube. It was in the first few years of YouTube where everybody has like a plan
like
to
the
become
Transformers clip or whatever.
300.
The 300. Oh yeah.
We did a parody of 300 that was basically all the Latinos at the border, which was done again as a joke, but then like white supremacists started sharing it, saying they were acting like this is a documentary.
Oh, really? Do elaborate.
Wow.
Who would have
Really?
thought?
Yeah.
What but anyway, but that thing got picked up all over the world. Like we were able to look at like the analytics and see that it was like popping up in Europe. It was popping up and being reposted. I had like 8 million views, that one video.
Wow.
Which even today that would be insane. 8 million views.
Yeah.
But so we had the opportunity to kind of pitch. This was pre-streaming, pre-multi-platform. It was like a very limited number of outlets on television. And that was a wall because they did not see. Comedy Central should have given us a show.
Bro.
We were good. We were better than a lot of stuff they had. But they had Carlos Mencia's show at the time.
Oh, we already got that one.
Yeah,
exactly.
They got the token.
They'd already hit their
That's
quota.
the
of
diversity
Latinos.
higher.
The mentality was obvious that it was like, well, we already got a brown thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like whenever they have a show that's an ensemble cast, they're like, okay, we've got one black member. We don't want a second black member.
Right. And I mean, I saw us at the time where we were at creatively at the time. I thought we could pick up the mantle where Dave Chappelle's show left off, just from our perspective. Because our approach was very similar. It was like speaking the truth, crank up the absurdity, but make sure that the foundation for everything is that there's some very accurate balls out commentary at the core of it all.
Yeah.
But Spike TV, which doesn't exist anymore, they actually gave us it's crazy because they gave us a deal to do like a test pilot. But they were going to give us like, I can't remember, $50,000 to $100,000. And they're talking to people who did everything for nothing. Like we had no budgets to do anything. So all the stuff that they were thinking was so good, we'd done for nothing. Like Mexicans, we'd done it for nothing.
Yeah, we make it fucking work. You make it work.
Yes.
Do what we do.
And it was just craft alone that made that stuff, care and craft and knowing what we were doing that made that stuff seem tenable at the time. But they ended up changing ownership or leadership or whatever, so that deal went away.
Yeah, they needed another show about rescuing a bar. That's what they needed.
Yeah.
That's what they needed. They needed another show about rescuing a bar. Yeah, I see that.
We were ahead of the time curve, though. That was the problem at that time.
Yeah.
But now I feel like this ties into Barrio Days, which we'll talk about later. But like now, I think there's all kinds of places we could get some work out there. But that was the wall that we hit, and you could always go. Mm-hmm.
You've said it a few times here. Like I think we talked about it off air. That like I don't know if I misheard you, but that the satire wasn't right for the time, but like I feel that if it's good satire, like your audience is not ready for it at that time, right? Look at like
No, the
music.
audience was ready for it. The industry wasn't open to
Yeah.
it. Like I think
There
our
you
work
go.
our work deserved. You know, it at that time what we were doing totally would have worked as a show and it would have been successful. But they are. It's weird because when you're in that situation at that particular time, you're literally talking to individuals who are gatekeepers.
Yep.
Like you go into Comedy Central and you met with one woman and talk to that lady.
And everything rested on that fucking
You know-
woman, right? Like,
Yes.
You know what drives me nuts is
Damn.
that the industry was moving into a place where it was going to be more and more receptive to this, and then over the past like year or so, that more and more studios have been like, no, we don't want those diversity shows. We don't want them. It's just too dangerous to have those ideas. So, yeah, it's getting handed back
so
there.
dangerous.
And like, do you
But
feel
as far
dangerous?
as our audiences here, they've been very supportive over time. And when we got back, we were not active for about 4 or 5 years in the starting around 2012 or something. I don't know. And like 2016, 2017, we got back together, a few of us, and we did a new show called Gentrifucked. And that was about
share.
Yeah, it was about. I mean, we had an opportunity. We were like, it was at a comedy festival here in town. Actually, it's coming up again in November, Out of Bounds Fest. And there was an opportunity that one of our members pursued about doing a reunion show, and they were open to it. But then we asked ourselves, what are we going to do? Are we going to do like a greatest hits show? Because we had touring shows that we had like greatest hits sketches that we could put together like a killer. And we would go to sketch festivals in other states that were all white people, and we would mop the floor with those people because we had like years of material that we could just pluck all these great pieces from. So we could have done that and brought that back and been kind of like a nostalgia thing, but or we could do something new and relevant, which is what we always try to do, is to be relevant. And we all agreed to do a show about gentrification. So we did that show, and that show changed over the years and got tighter and had pieces swapped out. I'd say like 80% of it always stayed the same because it was really solid from the beginning. But that show we brought back many different times, and people showed up to it every time because it's like the truth. You know, people want to show up for something that tells the truth usually.
Yeah.
That's something I like about your shows, that it's not just repeating the same script. If you're going to watch one of your shows 2 years later that's having a revival, it's going to be a new show. There'll be a lot of the same stuff. It's the same beats, but it's been updated for the times. So that's something you don't get from just like scripted Broadway or whatever, you know?
We did Gentrifucked. The last time we did it was in early 23, because we were going to do it at the San Francisco Sketch Fest. Again, we actually done it twice there.
Nice.
And that last time we did it, we actually added a whole new sketch, which ended up being as strong as any of the other great sketches in that show from the beginning. It was called Spanglish Only, and the joke was you hear about those things about the people, those owners who like get mad if you order in don't order in English. Mm-hmm. Well, it was that scenario with the biracial couple coming, a Latina and a white guy, and you think they're walking into that kind of situation because they're nervous, but it's actually the last Latino restaurant in a gentrified neighborhood where the Mexican owner demands that you order in Spanglish.
Nice. I love it.
And he makes sure that the white guy is the one that's ordering for them.
Good. That's good, man. I like it.
But yeah, that show's had a long life, and like it's Star Wars, and but the whole idea is to try to do stuff. For me, it's like it's not worth it at this point unless it has a greater point.
Yeah.
And the point of that show, Gentrifucked, was basically just to illustrate and remind people that it's not just property and taxes and numbers and money, that there are real lives and memories and histories behind all that. And also to point out just how greedy people are.
No, man. Greed makes the world go round.
Right now.
Seriously. But Adrian, I want to dig a little more. I know we'll talk about the upcoming shows, and I want to dig a little bit more about, your past a little bit, if you don't mind me, because I do, like to ask questions. We have primos that actually tell me, like, hey, man, I want to know a little bit more about your guests, not just what they're doing right now, but just dig a little bit more for us. So we can do that here after the break. And primos, stay tuned for more with Adrian. This is Sin Color playing Limonada. As always, thanks Sin Color for your music. And stay tuned, Primos. Be right back.
Emociones trágicas que vuelven el corazón, que hacen que todo sea más que una canción. Canciones melodiosas que creas al actuar, encadenando mi corazón.
And we're back, Primos. Thanks again to Sin Color, and that was Limonada.
Always love
Check
the
them out
music.
at Sin Color Music. Amazing, amazing, amazing music. And Adrian, I have a question for you, man, because I do have listeners. Someone I hung out with recently. Shout out to Camazot's Comics. You guys know Rafael Flores, right? Camazot,
Yeah.
Turner Camazot.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show. Actually, I think he beat out Adrian at BIPOC. He ended up being the champ at BIPOC this year
Oh,
for the
yeah.
Price
Top
himself.
Primos. Yeah, he's a
I
prize
want
himself.
vengeance.
Uh-oh.
Hey, man,
Uh-oh.
never next year.
Oh, we
Never
have a
know
challenge. We have a challenge.
if they bring us back. Us
Hey.
back. We'll change it up this time. We'll see. Maybe we'll include more Star Wars stuff. You
The
know.
veil has been thrown.
Yeah, I want another
true. Gauntlet
performance.
has been thrown. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. But I have a question for you, man. You know, one of the things that I've been asked is just kind of, you know, two things. One, creatives, right? We all have our methods. We all have our muses, our things, but like, and it's kind of a throwaway question most of the time, especially for us to do panels and things like that, right? But the question does come up. It's like, man, like, how the fuck or where do you go to get the ideas for this shit? Like, what is the spark that you go, okay, that's the run to for me? Like, is it, some people do it in the shower, some say it's a music, some say it's an exercise thing. I mean, what is it for you that kind of picks up that creative process for you when you need that spark?
Well, it's a habit
Mm.
because if I had to just sit down and start writing something cold on a blank piece of paper, I wouldn't be able to do it. I take notes all the time when I have an idea that the original idea and spark can come from anywhere. Like I was saying about it, Star Wars. Sometimes your ideas come from other people not doing it well. A lot of great art in general is a lot of times a response to other art, a critique or a revision, or that's not how that would happen. You know, like Rio Bravo, which is a classic Western by Howard Hawks, was actually an answer to High Noon, which had a guy going around trying to get help against the killers that were coming to get him, and was trying to get the town to help him, and nobody would. In Rio Bravo, Howard Hawks said, no, a real guy wouldn't do that. He would tell everybody, no, don't, you're going to get killed if you try to help me. I'll handle it, you know? So sometimes ideas can come from seeing something that you want to answer to. Everything I did from the start was an answer to what I saw in pop culture. Six Mexicans named Gonzalez, for instance, that I mentioned earlier, that whole show was inspired by looking at the history of Latino representation. And the videos in that show, in between the monologues, actually are montages of some of the more ridiculous representations, like having Charlton Heston play a Mexican in Touch of Evil, or Marlon Brando as Zapata, and things like that. And also putting Speedy Gonzalez up on a pedestal, like saying that that's not a negative portrayal. That's actually like a heroic, subversive, revolutionary character. You know?
We like him.
Yes, everybody, we all love him. So a lot of times that's where your ideas come from. But then as far as like accumulating the material, like there's a show I'm working on, a new show, Hispanic Republican Male. I've got hundreds of pages of notes for that show. That
I think the title says everything about why this is needed.
Yes, and that's another show idea that when I would tell people the title, they would always have this reaction of like, there was only two reactions. It was either or both. They go, yeah, what's up with that? Or they go, oh, let me tell you about, you know.
Yep, always. Both reactions are running through my head right now.
Yeah. So anyway, but the habit is the big important part of like, when you get an idea, when you go, oh, you know what? I saw this thing that could be incorporated somehow or not, but you write it down anyway. And by the time you sit down to work out the piece, you have all these ideas, you know, only a fraction of what you're going to end up using, but some of them you'll just go, that doesn't fit anymore. But this one is really great, and let me draft that. So that's where the work comes from. It's just to conditioning. You condition yourself. And I tell that to people all the time that want to write. They think they can't write. I say, write down things that pop into your head and be open to them and recognize them when they come up and just scribble them down and don't think about them again. Keep them in a centralized place. And creativity is not magic. It's not magic, but you have to be. It's really just being open to the magic. But you're not a magician yourself.
I like that. Be open to the magic, Kevin. Kevin's magic. He knows magic, right, Kevin?
Yes, as I can prove to you.
Is this your card?
Right now. Watch this.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it's
Stop
back.
it.
That's a fake thumb.
We're gonna get
witchcraft.
I'm not stupid.
We're gonna get canceled. Kevin Garcia doing witchcraft. But one thing before I ask about the future projects here, I'm curious, man, because I've been, every creator that I've talked to, it was always a conversation with family, right, when you're young. And the plan was not always, oh, yeah, I'm just going to be a performer. It was usually like, oh, yeah, you go to school, be a welder, pour some concrete, get a trade. That shit you're working on is cute, but what's going to really feed you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what was it for you? Was it something like that at all, or was it completely different?
I just followed my own path. I really never, I couldn't afford to let my family influence what I did.
Yo.
Okay.
Yeah, I literally had Grandpa Garcia, when I was a reporter, tell me, when are you going to get a real job? And I'm like,
Man.
He sounds like a cartoon character at that point. When are you going to get a real job? Right?
Well, I had I struggled a lot, even trying to get out. I'm from Waco, Texas, and I had to struggle a lot to get out of there. So I didn't really have a lot of help getting out of Waco. And out of my family, I'm the only one who ever got out of Waco or decided to leave to try anything else. And so the input of, I put it this way, if I had allowed people's help or lack of help or advice or lack of advice to influence me at that particular time, I would have never done anything that was worthwhile. So no,
awesome.
I never felt that peer pressure. In fact, I dropped out of UT after a couple of years because I wanted to start working on the creative stuff, because it was getting in the way of the writing. I'm spending hours and hours on electives and things. And I'm and I know what I want to do. And I don't have, there's no time in my life to do it. Cause I also knew I wasn't good enough at what I wanted to do yet.
You do what you need to do, but you didn't have the strength to do it.
Yes. I had learned that from doing art, cause I do art as well. And I had always done pencil and pastels and that medium. And when I started doing political cartoons, I had to start doing ink, which I wasn't familiar with. This, I'm in my late teens at this point, 19, 18. And I did it, and I did it, and I got, within 2 years, I got really, really good at inking and cross hatching, and then that taught me you can't rush it. You just have to keep doing it until you get to where you want it to be. But you can't actually set a time frame. So I dropped out because I'm I need to be writing. I want to be able to write the kind of things that I can write now. I could write then, but I couldn't write the kind of things that I write now. The synthesis of comedy, or the synthesis of screenwriting or sketches with cultural content. I didn't know how to do that. And I'm I need to figure out how to do it. I need to pound away at it until I get a grip on it. And it took, for about 2 or 3 years, I just wrote. I had jobs that allowed me to write. I was a projectionist in a couple of theaters, and I would be up there with the movies running and writing. And I generated, and by the time the door opened up to do performing or to be part of other people's productions or to even produce my own one-man show for the first time, I had literally notebooks and notebooks of material.
Nice.
And material I didn't have, I had enough know-how to be able to generate at that point. So yeah, you have to follow. And my point is, in none of that time did I go, I'm worried about what my family's going to think, because they didn't understand really. There was no way they could understand it. What looked like being irresponsible was actually me taking more responsibility for my lifespan.
Hell yeah.
It was a crutch.
It looked
School
like, you're being a lazy dropout. It's no, I'm actually becoming more serious about what I want to do by doing this, so.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that, man. I appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah.
Well, there's Joseph Campbell wrote about he wrote about mythologies, world mythologies, and how they intersect and echo each other. And there's one thing about the hero's journey called "Follow Your Bliss," and that was something I tried to keep in mind. That's an important thing to remember to do, to learn to do. Be
No, man,
follow your
you're
bliss.
definitely. It's something that's hard to keep. Well, it's
The
hard
world
to
doesn't
keep
make it
going on
easy.
that
This
path, man.
society doesn't make it easy. This
Yeah.
culture
Oh
doesn't
no,
make it.
no, not at all. That's why I bring that up, because a lot of the time we have those hurdles we have to get over. Like you said, like if the family's an issue, then what you need to start breaking away from them, right? If the friend group is stifling you down because they're scared to move out of Waco, or afraid to really put themselves out there, then you may need a new friend group, right? And a
Yeah.
new
What I'm
creative group
hearing
at that.
is if the family's an issue, you take care of them.
Take care of the family. Take care of the family.
Well, everybody goes down their own path.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
eventually.
diverge a lot of times. So what are you
No,
going to do
but
about
credit
that?
to you, right? What you're saying, and I really like that you look at what you do, and it's not necessarily like, hey, it's just something that happens. No, like you work for it, right? And even on the vein of like comedy, right? Like comedy's hard to write. Like if you can't just look at something, oh, that's funny, I'm just gonna do a shit and fart joke. Which, don't get me wrong, there's
Yeah.
places for shit and fart jokes, but like if I really want to sit there and write a comedy sketch, which I've been trying to do recently, and man, it is not easy to land and get the pacing and the tone, but you have to work at it like anything else. I mean, Ella, you
Comedy
write
is
comedy books, you know?
precision. Comedy is precision work,
Yeah.
and you don't get credit for almost working.
Yep.
Like you can do
Right?
drama and fake your way through that and walk away from that and go like that went
Oh
really well,
yeah.
and it really landed. With comedy, if it doesn't land, there's no faking that it did or didn't.
It's
So
unforgiving. It's
yes, it's very
unforgiving.
unforgiving.
Like,
It's very
man, but
unforgiving.
more credit to you. Like I know Elia, she writes a lot of stuff. I used to like her comic strip, which is on Webtoons, by the way, Primos. You can just check out Elia in a Box at Elia in a Box. It was fun. Like it's a craft, man. When you can see somebody do a political cartoon or be a comedic panel, like it's just a craft that you can just admire and go, shit, like that is awesome. And it takes time because Elia, you wrote those when you were like what, starting college maybe or high school? I
Yeah,
forget, but
it was my last year of high school that I started it, and then just all the way through college, young adult, and then I put it to bed.
Cartooning is great though. That's a fun medium to learn how to be comedically expressive in, because I
Yeah.
use that when I look at cartoons, like the power of line and expression
Yeah.
and body language and exaggeration, all that stuff. I love all that stuff too.
Yeah,
it's
it was a
awesome.
good shift. After I stopped performing, I was like, I'll do it on paper.
Yeah, and it's the kind
Performance.
of thing where it is precision work, because it comes down to, like, as far as writing goes. Well, the LCP, I try really hard to make sure we always had a mix of comedy, like that there was physical comedy, there was verbal comedy, there was witty stuff, there was real broad stuff, there was political stuff. Like that was part of the formula of our shows as well. Like that's how we would choose which sketches would get in the show, because you want to. It's like a good album. I mean, I'm from the age where people had to put together a good album.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a good sequence, and that doesn't exist anymore. But
Soup
that was
to
always,
nuts, Kevin Garcia. Soup
Yep.
to nuts.
How
right?
do I not know these terms?
Adrian, do you know that, right? Soup to nuts. You know that phrase?
Yeah,
you know that,
I've
right?
heard that phrase. Yeah.
But do you know what it means? Because Kevin looks at me every time I say it like I'm out of my mind. Do you know what it refers to?
Well, it's kind of from A to Z, right?
Yeah, it's same thing, but it's involving food because I like to eat. So it's soups to nuts, meaning you start the course with something like a salad or a soup, more a soup than a salad for me, and then you end with a dessert, which is something that has a nut, like a coconut or almonds or things like that. Soup to nuts, a complete meal, A to Z. So yeah,
right.
I'm gonna remind you, Kevin Garcia.
I don't know, man. I just think you're nuts.
And you're the soup, my friend. You are the soup. But Adrian, sorry. I want to touch on that because it is something that you worked on, that you're working on consistent. It's a muscle, right? Something you have to not let fall because as times change, right? Satire changes, political opinions shift, right? There are some things that don't change, which is why a lot of the work that you've mentioned does come back, kind of reworked for the modern age, if you will, right? So since we all grew up in the 1900s or so, but I want to talk about the
Previous
future.
century.
Like you mentioned Barrio Days a little bit, Hispanic Republican Male. What are these about, and when do you think these are going to be something that the Primos can come out and support?
Well, Barrio Days is actually an old show that
Okay.
I brought back a few times in the last several years, a couple of times, and every time I brought it back, it people think I just wrote it because I'll give you a quick idea of what it is. It's 9 characters. It takes place in a single day. Starts in the morning to the evening. There's an election going on in the background that you're updated on throughout, and it's a Chicano candidate versus a kind of Bubba-like character, and that's the backdrop. But you meet all these different characters along the way throughout the course of the day, and each of those characters represents a different type of person in the barrio, and it tells the complete story. They're interconnected in some way, but the themes that the show deals with, it kind of was like ultimately like an overview on our community and how we've been treated over centuries, since colonialism up till now, and also how we've been treated in current times. And it deals with the worst moments too. It addresses like the worst moments in our history. And at the time I originally wrote the show, it was an overview of history. Now it would actually be a reflection of now, because at one point you would look back at like the Operation Wetback and things like that and say, look at how shitty, or even like the internment camps for the Japanese American citizens. And you go, look how shitty this country has been to certain people over time. So it would be a historical review. The show now is actually talking about now
Current events.
And there's one part of the show where this bus driver, who's kind of this Tex-Mex guy, is talking about his grandfather who served in World War II, and he's talking about breaking it down very simply about how a whole nation of people were persuaded that all of their problems were the fault of one particular group, and how when they came to drag their neighbors away, some of them cheered it on and some of them did nothing, and how history doesn't judge the people who did nothing any better than it judges the people who did something. So and that's true. That's my grandpa. That character's talking about my grandfather. So like, okay, you write that, and then what is that? You say that today, people think you're just wrote it yesterday,
right?
So I'm bringing that show back to shoot it for broadcast in late August, and going to do a couple shows, limited seating, because it's in a studio setting, and that's coming up in late August. The tickets will go up for that soon once we solidify it. So it's going to be in one of 2 weekends, and we need to get the finalization on which weekend it is. But that's one show, and that show, it's crazy how more relevant that show has become every year.
And I'm excited for it, honestly.
It was in 2023. It's 2025. It's more relevant than 2023. And in 2023, people were shocked.
Adrian, I want to ask you a favor. Can your shows stop being so damn relevant? Like, can we just have less of this out in the world right now?
I take no pleasure in the fact. I really don't, man. I really don't. I mean, if anything, I'd be happy if they just stayed like
at least
where they're at.
Yeah, at least like go no further. At least.
Yeah. So I would be happy if like the worst things in the show, the worst things referenced in the show, stayed in the past, but they're actually not. But the great thing about that show, though, even though it is very honest in that way, is that ultimately the whole point of that show is to be uplifting. Yeah. So the show ends with the speech by the candidate, the Chicano candidate, and that speech, the whole show is funny, and at the end it has a real speech, and that speech was inspired by, because I grew up being very like interested in political, like American political history, especially in that turning point of the 60s. Like 1968 to me was a point where the country could have gone in one of two directions, and unfortunately it went in the direction it went in. But they had to kill a lot of people to make us go in that direction. They had to kill a lot of leaders. But that speech was inspired by the language of Malcolm X, the language of RFK, who ran in 68, the language of MLK, the language of Renteria, who was a Chicano leader and had some Corky Gonzalez. So like it was like a dream candidate speech. And I've had people actually, the last time I did the show, I had people have a Q&A after the show, and I actually had more than once people say, will you run for office? Will you run for governor? Because they think that's me giving the speech. But it's ultimately uplifting and unifying. Like, that's a big thing that was important to me, that the speech at the end, yes, let's talk about how there's been mistreatment, but let's also talk about the fact that it's possible for all good people to come together to prevent that for each other, that it's not so divided, that like if you got a good heart and you recognize injustice when you see it, there's a place for all of us to work together. So that's a message that needs to be said. And that guy that just won in the primary in New York, I think that was his message too.
Where can people find out like the details? I mean, where can people search for this? I know you mentioned that it should be something available soon for purchase, tickets to be there and live, and of course broadcast. You know, I know you're going to put it out there, but where can people look for this information?
Well, they should follow us on Instagram at Latino Comedy Project. You can also enter Latino Comedy Project in Google, and our website will come up. All our other social media will come up. I'm adrian.d.villegas on Instagram, and you can follow me because I post a lot of other stuff beyond LCP stuff. I post political stuff and everything too, if you're interested.
Cool, no, for sure. And I don't want to ignore it or forget it, because Hispanic Republican male, right? That's the next one.
That's a new show that I'm working on.
Okay.
That's gonna happen in November, and it's called Hispanic Republican Male Into the Pendejoverse.
Into the Pendejoverse.
That's been a long time coming. Like it's been accumulating material for years, and it was inspired, unfortunately, by my watching a family member kind of make this turn in the last 10, 15 years to being kind of the gun nut, radicalized, liberal hating. You know, he calls himself a libertarian, but all of his opinions are like straight up Republican. You know, I mean, he'll defend Ted Cruz. Like that tells you like where he's.
Why?
Yeah. So that's something I had to observe, and I didn't really know what was happening. I mean, like I think like a lot of people, you just go, well, I don't know, they're kooky, but then after a while you realize, no, this is a genuine personality change. It's a genuine decency change, because there's things that happened in the last few years that also included his spouse, who's also on the far end of things, and that you go, if you weren't so indoctrinated, these are things you would not have been capable of doing to other people.
Yeah, because that's the question, right? Like, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to say it because we've all seen the videos, we've all seen the conversations, we've all seen the stuff, and we go like, what the fuck happened to you, bro? Like, what happened to you? Something, like, what impacted you that you turned into a whole nother fucking species in front of me? Like, that shit is real.
Well, Hispanic Republican Male, one of the goals of that show, one of the things that I think I needed to do in that show as a public service, because of the reaction I would get from people when I even brought up the idea of the show, they would go, what's up with that? And then they'd want to tell me their own stories. One of the things I hope to do is to explain that it's not an accident. It's not a circumstance. It's the result of a deliberate program to change people's personalities, to change their emotional makeup, to make them in a constant state of anger and resentment, to feed off of their pre-existing weaknesses. Like they might be a little racist. They might be sexually insecure. They might hate women a little bit. They want to tap into each one of those little, you give them that little chink in the armor.
A little bit farther, push it a little bit farther, push it a little bit farther.
Well, they get in through that crack and then they take over your brain. It's like body snatchers, you know?
Yeah.
And I had to figure that out. That's how come I even thought about doing the show, because I had to figure out like what's going on. This person used to be the most level-headed, cool, calm, collected person, like almost Vulcan-like in our family. And now here he is being pissed off about the existence of mothers demand action. Like they did something to him personally.
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit where I'm like, what? You know, you do
disagreement has become pleasure, and it's weird. Yeah.
And then also just seeing them like they used to be real offended if you implied that they were saying something inaccurate. Like, well, you don't really know me. And then you see them sharing something that's obviously bullshit that even gets fact checked by the platform they're posting it on. And instead of going, oh, I'm embarrassed by that. No, they get offended that it was fact checked.
And they double down.
Watching that change. So
Elia, you just look like, yup. Welcome to
I've
Texas.
experienced it.
I have too, unfortunately.
it's really evil how it works, because it is a psyop. Nobody's saying it, but it's a multi-decade psyop campaign.
Yeah.
That is there, and it's only in service of the rich people in this country. It's in service of the billionaires. Like
Really
they
is.
keep these certain people as they condition these people to be their bulwark against change. You know, if I can keep making you be racist, then any policy proposal that might also benefit just by chance some black people, you can always twist that knob and they will be against it.
Yeah.
That's
You
some
got
shit,
people in
man.
rural America who are against like universal health care when they would benefit from it more than anybody in the country.
Yeah.
But all they got to tell them is, well, that black or that brown person is going to get it too, and they ain't got nothing to earn it. Well, I don't want that.
Republican woman from Florida who had a problem with her pregnancy, and she found out that they would not treat her because of the laws that she herself passed. And then she said this is because of the far
liberals.
left that has...
That the liberals stopped her from getting an abortion.
Yeah.
How is that? But you voted for the law that...
No, she
it's
pushed
like,
it.
She pushed it, yeah. Like, my wife was telling me about this the other day, and I was like, it's insane that until something happens to them, even when it's happening to them, they won't... It used to be, okay, until they're impacted, then they're going to realize. Now, even if they're impacted, it doesn't matter. They're so like they will... Yeah, they'd rather die than fucking be wrong.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I noticed too. That I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, a lack of accountability. Yeah, that's just.
Well, that's the other thing I noticed too that I kind of want to illustrate is I said this in 2016, and I said a couple things in 2016 that keep haunting me because they all proven to be true. One was that the right-wing people, they don't mind a dictator as long as it's the dictator that hurts the people that they want to hurt.
Yep.
And we're seeing that right now because they don't care about any of the constitutional violations. The other thing I said is that what we're witnessing is a political movement whose ultimate goal is the death of empathy. And that's what all of that media indoctrination, that's its goal, is to make you less human, less empathetic, to almost villainize empathy, like to make it seem like it's a character flaw. And that's one thing I want to illustrate too, is just like the reduction in the humanity in people who subject themselves. And it's a drug. I mean, it's a drug. Like you get to feel, because that's the thing about right-wing messaging and narrative building, is that you are always either, they are always either the hero or the victim in the narrative. But if you can come up with a narrative that combines both, where you're both the hero and the victim, that's like the best. So that's what they kind of encourage in people's thinking, is that I'm somehow a victim, I'm somehow being taken advantage of, or I'm a hero in waiting. That's why I got my gun.
I love how a lot of these guys... These guys still consider themselves anti-government. Wow.
You know, it's crazy that at this age, it's crazy that at this age, you know, like you said, like that is something that we never thought we would get to, but it's happened, you know. And Adrian, I'm super excited, man. I'm happy. First of all, thank you for coming on the show. Number one, right? We finally got it to work. No, because shit, you know, this is a shoestring budget with tin cans here and there, making it work. But I'm so happy you were able to come on the show, have these conversations with us, because we need to have these conversations more and more, right? Not only, we can't be subtle anymore. We can't just sit here and ha within our own groups, but even whatever we're creating, be it art, I mean, be it a performance, be it a book, be it a screenplay, we have to speak up, man, you know? And I am so excited to just watch your work, honestly, that's coming up. And I want to just kind of round out the show here, of course. And Primo, just please check out Adrian's work. You know, check out, we'll have links for everything in our show notes as well as we'll have everything on screen here as well, just to make sure we can follow Adrian and his work, and keep an eye out, of course, for Barrio Days and Hispanic Republican Male. And that way we can kind of look at it and dissect it, and maybe have you back on the show, Adrian. Dig a little deeper, man, and go into that process. Elia, before we go, is there anything you want to let the Primos know to go support you? Anything coming up that you want to bring up for the Primos?
Be on the lookout in July. I will be raising funds for St. Jude on my Twitch channel. I'll have more details on my socials later, but please join me mid-July, and we'll raise money to cure cancer.
There we go. We repair, and help.
Yeah.
Kevin Garcia, anything coming up soon that the Primos can support you?
Well, I mean, we're planning for Texas Latino Comic Con on August 9th. We're really looking forward to that. Want to get everybody there. As I said before, we want everybody to show up. You don't have to be Latino. We want everybody to be there.
Yes.
We had a lot of fun last year with the Primos.
Is that the one here in Austin?
No, that one's in. That was
Dallas,
Meximericon. That one's going to be in.
November.
I want to say November.
Yeah, it's usually November. The fall.
Yeah.
November.
Yeah, the Latino Comic Con is the one in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Hector's show.
Dallas.
Yeah.
When is that?
It's going to be August 9th.
Hey, man, you should come up. That'll be fun, man. There's Lucha. We'll be there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we get to watch the guy putting on the convention get beat up by luchadors.
That's true. You do.
Let's touch base before then. That would be cool. I would love to join you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe
I was going to say, too, thank you guys for having this podcast and for what it provides, because a big reason why I kept the LCP going after we got back together, we were only going to get back together for that one show, because I saw the need in the audience. Like I saw like the importance of having like a collective experience and having other people that are of like mind and like spirit together and having those experiences. So I feel that in what you guys do too. Like even just being here in conversation with y'all and knowing that we're all kind of coming from the same place is really, really valuable for just your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And so that's why I've kept doing what I've been doing the last few years. And I recognize the value in that way of what you guys do. And I thank you for that.
Hey, game recognizes game, dude. I know you probably already know it, but what you're doing is important too, dude. Like, it's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, man, I appreciate you and everybody. Of course, your words there. It means a lot because, as I end the show here, guys, I always say, Primos, of course, check in with each other because you never know, man. So checking in with somebody at these times, how they are. And I'll say it out there, fuck ICE. And I'll put it out there 100%. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. And I feel, Primos, that we need to be informed, be loud. We can't be subtle anymore, like I said. So just check in with your friends, your family, because no matter where you're from, we're all primos, and we got to look out for each other.
Yeah.
So I thank you, Adrian, Kevin, and Elia. Take care, primos, and hasta la próxima. Adiós.
Bye.
We out.
Bye.